The Marquise's shoulders. The Marquise was still lazing in her sumptuous bed, surrounded by curtains of heavy yellow satin. The clock struck noon, and to the clear, ringing chime of metal, she finally opened her eyes. A cozy warmth filled the room. Soft carpets and heavy draperies over the windows and doors shielded her securely from the wind and cold. It was like a charming little nest of eternal spring, where everything was fragrant and caressing. But as she awoke, a faint unease flickered across the Marquise's face. She tossed back the silk coverlet and rang for her maid. "Did you call, Madame la Marquise?" asked Julie as she entered. "Yes. Tell me, is the snow melting?" She spoke the words hurriedly, with a note of anxiety in her voice. She was clearly kind-hearted. Her first thought upon waking was of the biting cold, of the harsh north wind from which she herself was protected, but which tormented the poor in their wretched hovels. She hoped, of course, that heaven had taken pity on them, and that she could now enjoy the warmth without a guilty conscience, without the grim thought of those perishing from the frost. "Is it thawing, Julie?" Her maid handed her the morning peignoir, carefully warmed by the fireplace, and replied, "Alas, madam, not at all. The frost is sharper than yesterday. This morning, a man was found frozen to death on the street." Hearing this, the Marquise was suddenly overcome with a childlike joy and delight. She clapped her hands and almost cried out, "Oh, how wonderful! So I shall go skating." Julie began to draw back the curtains little by little, slowly, carefully, so that the too bright daylight, bursting suddenly into the room, would not be unpleasant to the sensitive eyes of the charming Marquise. A bluish glow from the snow filled the room with a soft, gentle light. The sky was gray, but a pleasant gray, precisely the shade of the silk dress the Marquise had worn to the minister's ball yesterday. The dress was trimmed with white guipure lace, and this lace produced the same effect as the strips of snow on the rooftops, visible against the pale gray sky. At the ball yesterday, the Marquise had been dazzling. She had not retired to bed until 5 in the morning, and thus her head still felt a little heavy. But it was of no consequence. Now she sat down before a magnificent cheval glass, and Julie took up the waves of her blonde hair to arrange her coiffure. Her peignoir slipped lazily from her neck, bearing her shoulders down to the middle of her back. A whole generation of aristocrats had grown old admiring these famous shoulders. Ever since that winter in France, when a strong government had unexpectedly emerged in December, allowing ladies of quality to indulge in dancing at the Tuileries without a breach of decorum and to appear there with bare necks. The Marquise's shoulders had become a permanent fixture at all official balls and festivities. They appeared everywhere with dignity, like a living emblem of the charms inextricably linked to the existence of the Second Empire. Following every whim of fashion, the Marquise gave her dressmakers complete freedom to design her bodices, sometimes cut low in front, sometimes plunging nearly to the waist and the back. Thus, step by step, she revealed to the gaze of the curious all the treasures concealed by her corset in every detail. There was scarcely an inch of her back or bosom that was not intimately familiar to every respectable person, from the Madeleine to the church of St. Thomas d'Aquin. The Marquise's bare shoulders became, one might say, the seductive slogan of the Second Empire. I think there is no need to describe the Marquise's shoulders in great detail. They had become as famous as, say, the Pont Neuf. For 18 years, they had belonged to the realm of public spectacle. In any salon, in any theater one only had to catch a fleeting glimpse of even a part of them, and everyone would exclaim without fail, "Why, it's the Marquise." I recognized her shoulders by that mole above her right breast. And indeed, the shoulders were exquisite, plump, rounded, snow-white, and arousing. The gazes of all the high-ranking personages who deigned to bestow their attention upon them seemed to leave an imprint, lending them even more elegance. Just as the feet of the faithful polish the stone floors of a cathedral, so had these admiring glances polished her shoulders to perfection. But if I were the Marquise's husband or lover, I confess I would derive far greater pleasure from kissing the crystal doorknob of a minister's study, grimy from the hands of 1,000 petitioners, than from pressing my lips to her shoulders, which might still bear the trace of the breath from every select representative of high society Paris. One need only consider the sheer volume of agitation and desire they had provoked around them, and one cannot help but wonder from what devilishly durable clay had nature molded them, that they had not yet worn down or crumbled to dust, when even the marble goddesses in the gardens crack and erode with time. The Marquise, of course, knew that modesty existed in the world, but this did not prevent her in the least from elevating her shoulders to the rank of a state institution. She served her beloved government faithfully with them. Like a faithful sentinel, she never deserted her post, be it at the Tuileries, ministerial receptions, meetings with envoys, or visits to modest millionaires. Her eloquent shoulders inspired the bold, encouraged the timid, and lured the hesitant. And in times of political turmoil, they worked veritable miracles. Then, from beneath her corset, seductive promontories and mysterious declivities with caressing dimples would be revealed to the world, and they acted so persuasively that they eclipsed the most heartfelt speeches of orators and struck blows more terrible than the saber thrusts of an experienced cavalryman. These shoulders became especially active when it was necessary to secure support and gather votes. Oh, then they became truly formidable, straining toward the light through the delicate lace of her bodice, conquering, subduing, and captivating the most intractable, the most ardent and uncouth of opposition figures. And through all these battles, the Marquise's shoulders invariably emerged calm, triumphant, and unblemished. Having delighted the eyes of the entire world, they had not lost a single particle of their former charm. Not a wrinkle, not a flaw dared to appear upon their white marble. That very morning, immediately after Julie had arranged her coiffure, the Marquise, attired in an elegant costume of Polish cut, set out for the skating grounds. She did so with astonishing elegance and grace. A bitter cold held the Bois de Boulogne in its grip. The frost was severe, and the wind nipped at the skaters' ears and cheeks as if a stream of fine sand were blowing in their faces. The Marquise laughed gaily. This fresh, unusual sensation of cold delighted her. From time to time, she would approach the braziers placed along the lake's skating rink to warm her feet, before darting back onto the ice, where she flitted about like a swift swallow. Oh, what joy she experienced, and what happiness that the thaw had not yet set in. Without a doubt, the Marquise could enjoy skating for a full week more. On the journey back, gazing from her carriage window, she noticed a beggar woman on one of the avenues of the Champs-Élysées, half frozen and shivering from the cold. The woman was vainly trying to shelter from the bitter air by crawling into a dense thicket. "Poor wretch," whispered the Marquise with distress. But the carriage was racing along so swiftly that the Marquise had no time to find her purse to give alms. Yet her generosity knows no bounds. And so she made a decision and threw to the freezing old woman her own wonderful, fragrant bouquet. The bouquet was composed of snow-white lilies and, given the season, had cost no less than 5 louis.